Without? No. Yeah. No, yeah. Also, then you can do your I have my father's here. Shabbat. So Shabbat. But it's not. Why did you shop? You shouldn't be doing it. We don't do Ganyan too. We don't do. That's how. It's like we have only Shabbat, so we don't have. Right. This one is 8. Let's see. Do you have anybody in line yet?
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Larry's dad, is he sick?
I don't know Larry yet.
okay. I'm just gonna ask the people online. Do you see the chat box? You need to open the chat box. In the chat box, I have 3 files.
I don't see anything in the chat box.
You do not.
No.
Okay, let me resend it. I'm gonna resend those files.
Okay, there it is.
1, then 2, then 3. Okay,
Good evening, Arik.
everybody.
Okay.
Okay, so I know we're gonna have, I'm recording that, so some people I know they're gonna watch it later. And it's good to, but I put in the chat box 3 files. More and more people are logging in, so hold on, I'm just gonna wait a second. And we're gonna start I guess we can start at 8 exactly. We have to start at 8:02. Okay. Okay. If you see 3 files in the chat box, 2 MP3 files and 1 PDF file, you can just raise your hand or give me the thumbs up or something like that okay, or through the emojis or any of that stuff, reactions. Nathan, do you have it? You see it?
I have 2 audio files, but no PDF.
No PDF. Okay. I'm gonna send it again. PDF. Okay. Everybody else have all 3 files?
I have one file.
Oh, I don't have any of the files.
I just see the audio. You want to send a link later on?
It's not a link. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. Hopefully one last time, guys. One. Two. I hear some of you already listening to it. And 3. Okay, at this point we have 12 people on Zoom. Okay. Okay, so welcome everybody. We're going to start. So I want to put some sort of a framework for what we're doing. This is the first of 4 mini-series. Each series has 3 classes. The first is today, starting today, dedicated to Torah reading. Next one is going to be 3 sessions on Haftarah reading. Then it's going to be 3 classes on weekday Nusach, leading the Tefillah on weekdays, and then 3, hopefully we can do it in 3, on Shabbat Nusach. Okay, so one of the things that we're not going to be dealing with is Hebrew. Okay, basically the expectation is that if you're going to read the Torah, Haftarah, lead the davening, etc., all that kind of stuff, you are able to read the Hebrew with no problem, no mistakes. That's we're not going to be dealing with that. Obviously, some of the principles, some of the things that we're going to touch upon today, we're going to deal with, is going to help with the reading of the Hebrew, but we're basically not dealing with reading of the Hebrew. The other thing that we cannot fix, Dave, is musical abilities. Somebody cannot carry a tune, and you think that this series is going to fix that, then you're in the wrong place. That's not going to happen. If you can't carry a tune, then you can carry a tune. We have a problem with that. So the 2 assumptions are that 1, you can carry a tune to some extent at least, and number 2, that you can read the Hebrew, or at least after working on that text, you are able to read it with no mistakes. Now, okay. So, open the PDF if you like online, and if you're with me,
Where's the PDF?
in the chat box, there's like a couple of there are 2.
Could you send it
MP3?
again? I couldn't.
Okay. Okay, this is like. By now, this is like. Okay, this is like, I don't know, like the 6th time I'm sending everything. If you come late, you can't see what was posted on the chat. That one. Okay, you need a teenager to tell us. what are the rules of Zoom. Okay, so
I went in and out and I lost it.
I put it in the chat again. Okay, so if you open the PDF, you will see that the first page is just a page of the text.
I'm still not getting it. Is it possible it's my problem?
Yes,
Maybe it just doesn't come through on my side.
yes.
I don't see
Okay.
it either.
Open the chat box and it should be there.
Yeah, I opened it, but I don't see it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going
I'll
to
post it.
I'm going to post everything later on together with the recording. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the first page is basically the regular text. That's the way we know it from the Chumash. And if you look at the text, we have obviously the letters. We have second level of information. So we have the letters, we have the vowels, and the third level is the trope. Okay, these are all those little signs above and under and whatever that we have on that page. Now, look at the second page. It's basically the way it looks in the Torah scroll itself, right? So first of all, the font is a little bit different. It's what we call Kav Ashuri, the name of the font. At least this is an Ashkenazi one. A Sephardic one looks a little bit different, but again, not that different. Doesn't have the vowels, doesn't have the trope. And I just took the same text. So if you want, you can look and compare the two, and you'll see that it's slightly different. Obviously, it's a different font. But when you come to read the Torah, and you're going to read it from the Torah scroll, this is what you're going to see, right? That's the text. Anyone who is, yes, if you have a tikkun and you want to bring it, that's fine. You have all the information here as well. A tikkun is a book where you have the two, on one page, the two sets of information. So you have both pages side by side, and that helps you to prepare the text, because the vast majority of the work is to transfer the information that you see with the vowels and with the trope into the version without. Okay. Well, let's talk about it for a second and understand what is it that we're talking about, the trope. Okay, everybody knows that when we hear Torah reading in public in the shul, it's chanted, okay, with melody, and that's what we're gonna learn how to do. But what is exactly all those little signs? So we have to understand we're talking about a very old tradition. I'm simplifying a lot of information, and those who know that stuff, I mean, Jay is here, whatever, I apologize, but you know, this is, again, as I said, this is a very practical workshop, so we're not gonna go like in depth into like all the rules of that stuff. We can do that maybe at some point later in the future. Okay, but we're talking about a very ancient tradition. It was kind of codified and by Chachmei Tveria. We're talking about somewhere between the 6th and the 8th century in Tveria, based on even earlier tradition, oral tradition. Okay, fine. I'm sorry? Which means, I don't know what that is. In Hebrew, you don't know how, what's the name on here?
Keter Aram Sova.
Oh, in Aram Tzova, okay. So in Aram Tzova, well, Keter Aram Tzova, the Sefer Torah itself doesn't have the Tamim. No, it doesn't have the Tamim. No. Yeah, it's a Masorah. And it was like attributed at least to Chachmei Tveria. Anyway, those little signs have several functions. Okay, function number one is punctuation. As you can see in the Torah scroll itself, we don't have punctuation. And this becomes extremely important because even the Sof Pasuk that we take for granted is a trope, right? Without that, without punctuation, we don't know where to stop, what sentence, a run-on sentence, half a sentence, what word belongs to where, all that kind of stuff, which could lead us to a misinterpretation of the text and read it in the wrong way. Forget about melody for now, just punctuation. Okay, so that's function number one. Function number two is mil'ele milra. Okay, in Hebrew, we have, again, I'm simplifying a lot of information, two forms, how we're going to say the word. Okay, we have whether the stress, the accent is going to be on the beginning or at the end of the word. Okay, so if, for example, I'm going to say, everybody hear the difference between mama and mama, right? Right? Okay, so the same goes now when it comes to Hebrew, especially in the Torah, it becomes crucial because sometimes it changes the meaning of the word. Okay, tenses. So, for example, the famous story of Yaakov and Rachel when they meet, right? So Yaakov starts the conversation with the shepherds, right? And he says, "Ayadatem et Lavan, blah blah blah," and all that kind of stuff. And they say, "Yes, vehine Rachel bito ba'a im hatzon." She is coming. Odenu medaber imam psukim later on. Verachel ba'a im hatzon asher le'avia. So ba'a is coming, present tense. Ba'a past tense. Same spelling, right? But you're going to change the accent and you're going to end up with a different tense. Different tense sometimes changes the whole meaning of the sentence, which creates a problem when we read the Torah. Okay? And the example that I like is morning, is boker, right? But in the Navi, we find boker, which is cowboy, right? So when you go to Israel and you're going to say boker tov, you're going to say good cowboy instead of good morning, that's going to be a problem, right? Again, it's the same word, but the accent is different. Everybody hear the difference, right? Boker, boker, ba'a, ba'a, etc. Okay? Good. So when you see the trope is going to tell us where the accent is. Okay, it's not 100% rule, but it's 90% of the time rule, meaning we're going to see the trope, where the trope is located, on which syllable or which havara the trope is located. This is where we're going to put the accent. Vast majority of the times. Okay? Okay. Now, let's go back to the first. We're gonna get there. Okay. Now, let's go back to the first function, because I need to talk about that a little bit. That's going to help us later on. System of punctuation. What does it mean? It's not like the way we look at punctuation. Oh, here's a comma, here's a question mark, here's an exclamation mark, here's a period. It's not like that. It means I'm going to take the pasuk and I'm going to divide it to little units. Now we can spend like a whole series of classes on that. I'm going to crunch it into 3 minutes or 2 minutes, okay? I'm going to make it very, very simple. I'm going to disregard a lot of the rules, but again, it's a practical workshop. Take a look at the first page, the one that you have with the trope, okay? Every pasuk starts right after except for Bereshit, obviously, which is the first pasuk in the Torah. Every pasuk starts right after the end of the previous pasuk. Okay. Good. Every pasuk, unless it's very, very short, like Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe Lemor. Okay, unless it's a very, very short pasuk, it's going to have, the vast majority of the pasukim is going to have a divider. And that divider is the trope et nachta. Okay, so for example, in the first pasuk that you're going to look at, Bereshit bara Elohim, under the hay, you see the trope et nachta. Okay, now that trope is a very strong pause, just like the sof pasuk. And that divides the pasuk into two sections. Now, it's not necessarily, it's not necessarily, it has nothing to do with the length of the pasuk. Meaning, even if the pasuk is short, relatively speaking, and even if the pasuk is very, very long, I'm still going to have only one et nachta. Just like I'm going to have only one sof pasuk, I'm going to have only one et nachta. Now, the et nachta is not going to divide the pasuk based on the number of words. I'm going to divide the pasuk into two sections, but based on the meaning, not the number of words, right? So here, let's take the first pasuk. Bereshit bara Elohim. That's the first part of the pasuk. Et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. That's the second part of the pasuk. Okay? So the etnachta takes the pasuk and cuts it in half. Okay.
I think you should mute everybody, Arik.
I'm trying. Okay. Then we have other types of mafsikim. Okay, let me say something before that. All the tropes, okay, and actually, guys, look at the next page. You have a list of the trope. Okay, you have like between all the edot, pretty much the same thing. There's sometimes different names. That's not important. But if you see on the top, it says Ashkenazim. You have Zarkas, Segol, Munach, Ravia, Mapach, Pashtaz. Right? These are all the names of the tropes. So these are all the tropes that we have. Now, all those tropes are divided into two basic groups. Two basic groups. One is what we call te'amim mafsikim, the one that separates, and what they're going to do, they're going to take the pasuk, break it into small units. Okay? And the other type is te'amim mechabrim, the one that connects the words. Okay? So together with the mafsikim and the mechabrim, together what we're going to end up is have units that are connected to each other of one or two words together, depends how much we divide the pasuk. Okay, and that's basically the logic of that punctuation. Means it's not that I'm going to have a question mark and stuff like that, but I'm able to divide the pasuk into little sections, and I know which word goes with which word, and where do I pause, and where is a bigger pause. Okay, so back to what we said before. The sof pasuk and the etnachta are the strongest stops. Okay, under that we have others, and then it's like there's a hierarchy. I'm not going to go to all of that stuff because it doesn't take us a long time, and that's not what we're trying to do. But we're going to go back to that when we come to the practical aspect in about 10 minutes. Okay, just remember that. Okay, so we said the accents and we said punctuation. So when we sing, when we chant, when we lane, it's also it's always very, very clear if somebody understands the pasuk or not, based on the way they sing. Even if they're gonna sing all the right notes, somebody who's trained gonna see if they understand, because the phrasing is gonna be off if they don't understand what's going on. Okay, so when you prepare Torah reading, when you look at, you want to have, even if it's not 100%, but at least the basic stops or the basic connectors or how that roadmap goes in order for you to make, so when you put together the music of the trope, it's going to flow and it's going to have a phrasing that makes sense. Okay, am I making sense? Good. Which brings us to the third function, which is the music. So we know that in our tradition, in not in only the Ashkenazi one, but in the Sephardic one and every Jewish tradition, Torah reading is being chanted. And the question is, why? Oh yeah, you're supposed to know because we talked about that. But why?
Isn't the Torah described as a song?
Okay, that's an allegory. That's a nice idea, but like, you know, why putting so many balei kriya through, you know, so much trouble? Make it easier? I don't know. You prepared a couple of parshiot. You know how hard it is.
Doesn't it help with memorizing the?
Excellent. Good. It helps with memorizing, because if I'm going to ask you guys, you know, how many poems do you know by heart? I don't know. Very few, maybe, if any. But how many songs do you know by heart? Many, right? Because you sang it. It's a very functional way when you sing a text to remember it. Now, what happens? We're talking about way before print was invented, right? So so there was not much of access to like, you know, to the text itself, right? And writing Torah scrolls was not as easy as it is today. So people had to take advantage of when they were around the text, when they were able to actually see a Torah scroll, they had to take advantage of it, and in the time that they had, memorize as much as they could, because otherwise they didn't have access to the text. Yes. They didn't. Probably, and this is why, you know, you sing in one trope and I sing in a different trope, and actually, in the Ashkenazi tradition, in only the Ashkenazi tradition, I'm not even talking about the Sephardic tradition, in the Ashkenazi tradition, for the same trope, we have 8 different melodies. Okay, so we have the Torah reading, but we have also what we call the German trope, right, of the Torah reading, which is also an Ashkenazi tradition. Sounds a little bit different. And then we have, same goes for the Haftarah. We have, let's call it the Eastern European or the Lithuanian, whatever, melody versus the German one. We have the tune for Ruth Shir Hashirim and Kohelet. We have the trope for the high holidays. It's different. It's the same text, right? We read from Sefer Bereshit, but since it's Rosh Hashanah, we read it in a different tune. It's the same trope, but each trope is going to sound different, right? So that's 2 Torah reading, 2 Haftarah, Megillot, high holidays, Esther, Megillat Esther is another set, and Megillat Eicha. And Aseret HaDibrot is not a whole set of trope, is what we call the Yotzei Min HaKlal. there are a couple of sections in the Torah that we have special melody, but it's not that like each trope has a different set of melody for all the tropes. It's not. Okay, so we have like, for example, the machanot, da 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 da, ba, 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 da, 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 right? And we have Shirat Hayam, and we have Aseret HaDivot. So there are a couple of exceptions, but that's not a whole set of melodies. Okay, and based on that, that gives flavor. So, if you hear the Torah reading versus the Haftarah, even if you don't understand the text, but it sounds different. Oh, this is Torah. Okay, this is Haftarah. Oh, this is a Megillah. Ah, this is Megillat Esther. Ah, this is Rosh Hashanah. This is Eicha, etc. And it's the same, by the way, it's the same idea of Nusach HaTfilah. Right? Why you have like a different Nusach, different sets of melodies for Shabbat versus weekdays versus Shalosh Regalim versus high holidays, and within that certain parts of the Tfilah. Why? Because it brings a whole baggage of memories. Okay, it creates connotations. Of course, yeah. Okay. Let's go into a couple of the nitty-gritty of the text itself. Sometimes you're going to look at the Chumash and you're going to see several words connected with a hyphen or a dash. In terms of the trope, in that case, usually what you're going to see is one trope. Most cases, we're talking about short, small words, im, for example, like two-letter words, that kind of stuff that's connected to another word. Sometimes even three words together. I think there are even cases of four, I don't remember. But so when they're connected together with a dash or a hyphen, right? It means that they are considered to be as one word, and therefore they're going to have only one trope. Not always, again, it's not 100% time rule, but it's best majority. Okay? Your question, Alan. Sometimes we're going to have two tropes on one word. Okay? That has to do also with the accent. Okay? So here's the rule. If we're going to see two different tropes, not the same trope, two different tropes for the same word, we sing both melodies. Okay? However, if we see the same trope, like for example, tre pashtin, like when we have two pashta, then we sing it only once. It has to do with the accent, but we do not sing the melody twice. Sometimes it's going to be even a zarka. You're going to see two zarkas, the same word. It has to do with the accent. Yes. Zarka and? Well, pasek doesn't have a melody. So the pasek, or the way the Ashkenazim call it psik, is a vertical line, right? That separates. It has to do with the pronunciation, right? So we want to make sure that you're not going to connect two words together. So we put a psik or pasek, okay? Has to do, I'm sorry, a vertical line to separate, right? It has nothing to do with the melody. It has to do with making sure, right? It's not making sure. It's not one word. Right? Making sure that right? That we're gonna have all. So that's okay, but you still keep the melody. Okay. Correct. So that definitely in Kriyat Shema, that's a good example. In Kriyat Shema, you're going to see it a lot because in Kriyat Shema we're very careful. Correct. In Kriyat Shema we're very careful how we pronounce. So therefore, and actually I saw in one of the one of the editions of I think Archroll, one of the version of Archroll, they put it like almost every second word, like specifically to make sure that because we're more careful when it comes to. Okay. Okay. Next. Excellent. We said. Okay. Sof pasuk. Sof pasuk is a very interesting trope. Okay, look at the first page, the one that we have with the trope. So everybody knows how to identify the sof pasuk, right? It's basically like a colon, but kind of most editions, not all of them, it's kind of like two diamonds. Okay. Again, I don't understand what you're saying. Where do you see the two lines? Okay, that's a tipcha and then a mericha. These are two tropes. Nothing to do with the sof pasuk. Nope. No. Okay. So the problem is when it comes to the sof pasuk, how do we determine where the accent is going to be? Is it going to be mil'el or going to be bilra? In other words, if the trope is above or beneath the word and it is connected to a particular letter, particular havara, particular syllable, I know where to put the accent. But the sof pasuk is at the same height of the word. So if I'm looking at the last word, haaretz, where the accent is going to be, I have ha-ha-retz. I have three syllables, ha-ha-retz. So is it going to be haaretz or is it going to be haaretz? Right? How do I know? So this is why the sof pasuk has a partner. And the partner is called the meteg. Some places, some traditions, they call it the gaya, meteg. Yeah, meteg, or Yemenites call it gaya. If you look under the aleph of haaretz, you see a little vertical line. Reminds me that I should have brought like my reading glasses when I look at all this. Okay, there's a little vertical line. Okay, and when you see that little vertical line, it's not always only for sof pasuk. Sometimes, in some cases, you're going to see it on words that are not necessarily a sof pasuk. It helps you, it tells you where the accent is going to be. And since that vertical line is under the aleph, we read it haaretz, right? The accent is on the aleph, haaretz. Versus if I moved it a little bit to the left and it's under the reish, okay, it's not there, but imagine, right? If it's under the reish, it would have been haaretz. Okay, everybody's with me? Everybody understand? So when you look for when you see a sof pasuk, you need to look for the meteg, the partner of the sof pasuk. Okay? Good.
So that covers
To
that.
understand what.
Repairs.
Okay, next. One of the tropes that is kind of you need to pay attention to is the zakef. Look at the list of the tropes. Okay, the zakef. I'm sorry, not the zakef. The munach. Munach. Okay, it's in, for example, the second line. For the third word from the end. See the munach? The word munach. So the munach looks like a 90-degree angle underneath the word. Why am I saying that we need to pay attention to it? Because it has several melodies. And the melody of the munach is determined by its location. So when we said that each little sign has a melody, that's, as I said, it's a 90% of the time rule. Some cases, the melody changes a little bit based on the location of the trope. So for example, something to have in mind already, if the munach precedes a zakef katon is 2 dots above the word, okay? Then it's gonna have a particular melody. But if it's not gonna precede as a kef katon, it's not gonna have that melody. It's gonna have a different melody. Okay? Fine. Moving on. So when we read the text, and I'm not even talking about like singing it yet, what we want to do is we want to read it in the units. And in order to do so, we're going to look for the mafsikim or the mafridim. And we're going to try to take each pasuk and kind of like have like a not super accurate, but like a general division of the pasuk. So we understand the phrasing of the pasuk. And only then we're going to apply the melody of the tamim. So let's take a look, for example, in the first pasuk. Okay, so the first trope that we have is a tipcha under the shin and the word bereshit. Okay, and a tipcha is a, I should have created a, I'm going to put it together with the other sources, like a list of the mafsikim versus the list of the mechabrim. Okay, the ones that separates versus the ones that connects. Okay, the word bereshit has a tipcha. Tipcha is a, you know what, actually, let's do it the opposite. What is my entire pasuk? Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Boom. Everybody understand that I stopped there, right? Okay, that's the entire pasuk. Fine. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide it into 2 halves. Bereshit bara Elohim et nachta et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Okay? 2 halves. I want to move to the next pasuk for just a second. Everybody see I have it nachta over there? Okay, and therefore I'm going to stop right there. Sof pasuk, I'm going to stop there. That's the end of the pasuk. So far, so good? Okay, but we're going to take it now a little bit further. Okay? Look at the, we're going to take each half and we're going to divide it into 2 now. So now we're going to have 4 sections of the pasuk. And the divider that I'm going to look at is the zakef katon, 2 dots above the word. Ve'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but there are 2 dots above the bet in vavohu. Okay, so this is where I'm going to stop. V'choshech al pnei tehom. I'm going to stop there. I already know that. Ve'ruach Elohim going to stop there because I have a zakef katon again. Merachefet al penei hamayim. Obviously, I'm going to stop. That's a sof pasuk. Now, I can take it to the next level and divide it the following. Veha'aretz, a little stop. Why? Because a revia or revi'i, that diamond that I have above the aleph, is also tam mafrid. Okay, it's also a trope that separates. Okay, not to the same extent as the sof pasuk, the etnachta, or the zakef katon, but again, it separates at least a little bit. Veha'aretz, okay, then hayeta tohu vavohu. Here I know that I already stopped, right? Vechoshech, a little bit, a tiny stop here, because the tipcha is also a trope that separates. Al penei tehom. Okay, by the way, pay attention to this. Al penei, you see they're connected, and therefore they have only one trope. As we said, they're connected with a hyphen. Tehom, I stop, that's the etnachta. And then veruach Elohim, I stop there. Merachefet, as I said before, the tipcha that we can find here under the chet is also a little bit of also like a small separation. Al penei, they're connected together, so that's considered to be as one word, and it has a mercha. Mercha is a connecting trope. Al penei hamayim, right? Al penei hamayim, I stop there. Okay? So, I don't remember who, but somebody during the week asked me to have the notation of the trope. So that's what you have there, like those 2 pages. I'm gonna just guys, give me a second. I'm gonna give it to the guys here also. Yeah. This is very, 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 very the way I read, and I think vast majority of people read. Okay, if you want to try it on the piano, if you know how to read music, whatever. If not, this is why you have the MP3 files that are in the chat box. I recorded all the tropes as one. I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna send you guys those files. And the other file has patterns. So now we'll take a look at the last page. Main patterns. So now, when we start to prepare a paragraph, now this is obviously not the only way those. If you look at that page, the last page of main patterns. Obviously, that's not the only way. These are just like common patterns that I put together, and I think it's easy both to practice the tropes themselves, but also to understand the flow, the phrasing of the trope. Okay, so for example, mercha tipcha, I'm in group A, mercha tipcha et nachta. Okay, that's kind of, you're going to see basically a variation on the theme, right? So you're going to have 4 tropes in group A, mercha tipcha et nachta and sof pasuk. right? And I put them in several patterns. These are not the only patterns, but these are very common ones. Okay. Same goes for group B. You're gonna see 4 tropes. Munach that precedes Zakef Katon. We spoke about that. That have specific melody. Munach, tarara, Katon, Zakef Katon, right? And Pashta and the Ma'apach. So these are the 4, and these are, I played with that and created those combinations. Now, here's what we're going to do. You have recordings of all the tropes, and you have recordings of those patterns. And if you want to play it on the piano or something, like, each one of them individually, have fun. What I think is going to be very, very, very helpful is to listen to that. And there are no shortcuts here. There's no easy or easier way around that. You basically take one trope and you sing it until you remember what's the music of that trope, right? Berecha tipcha et nachta sof pasuk, right? Merecha. So if I'm in group A, for example, Merecha tipcha, or number 2, Merecha tipcha et nachta, Merecha tipcha, Merecha et nachta, Merecha tipcha sof pasuk, Merecha tipcha, Merecha sof pasuk. Right? Most of them are melodies that are very, very short. Ta-ram, pa-pa-pam, pa-pa-pa-pam. But it takes time to engrave it into your, there's no easy way around that. But when you understand, and guys, the most efficient way to do that is to take a list of, like, I don't know, 100, 150, 200 words, and just sing each word to the melody of that particular trope that you're working on. So basically, you're singing that melody 100, 150 times with different words. Taram, 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 pa pa pam, et nachta, sof pasuk, pa 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 pam, whatever, any word, doesn't matter. Okay, until you have it. Once you have it, hopefully it stays with you. And then when you have all those melodies engraved into your brain, and that takes time, then we start dealing with the text itself as a text. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Right, and you can see already Bereshit hashamayim, both tipcha, they're going to have the same melody. Haaretz, sof pasuk, Elohim et nachta. Right? So once you get into the groove of that, you see that a lot of stuff that they're already connected. It's going to be easier. The beginning is hard. There's kind of a general melody. Mercha tipcha et nachta, mercha tipcha pasuk, munach katon. Et nachta, just making this up. Munach katon, mapach kadma. Sorry, mapach pashta, munach katon. Okay, and these are the patterns. These are the patterns. If you do the patterns again and again and again and again, it's going to help you. So in those patterns, if you do group A and group B, you have 8 tropes. And if you focus on those 8 in the beginning, it's going to help you tremendously, because you're dealing only with 8 and not with all, the entire list. Okay. And you'll be surprised that when you do only those 8, a huge chunk of the text is going to be behind you. Let's take the first page for a second, okay, and read it only with those 8 tropes, okay? I'm going to skip all the words that have other tropes. I'm just gonna, for me, it's like it's way too small to read. I'm just gonna grab it. Okay, that's what happened when you reach 40. You need reading glasses.
Just yesterday.
Okay. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim et haaretz. So we have the entire pasuk. Okay, v'haaretz, that's a revi'i or revia. Right? We're going to skip that because that's not one of those 8. Remember, the 8 amercha, tipcha, et nachta, suf pasuk, munach that precedes zakef katon, pashta, and ma'apach. These are the 8 that we have in the patterns. Okay, v'haaretz. Okay, hayeta mercha, hayeta tohu, pashta, bavohu, katon, v'choshech. Okay, I'm going to skip that because this is not a munach that precedes as zakef katon, al penei tehom. But this one precedes zakef katon. Veruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim. Vayomer Elohim yehi or, vayhi or. Okay, then we have again 2 tropes that are not part of those 8. We have a darga, tivir, vayar Elohim. I'm going to skip them. Vayar Elohim et haor kitov, vayavdel Elohim bein haor uvein hachoshech, vayikra Elohim mapach laor yom ולחושך קרא לילה, ויהי ערב, ויהי בוקר, יום אחד. So excluding just like what do we have? 1, 2, 3, like 4, I think 4 or 5 words. Okay, so those 8 are extremely important, and I think that in the first stage, try to focus on those 8. So again, you have a recording of all of them. Try to isolate those 8. But also in the other recording of the patterns, you have those 8 in all sorts of patterns. Okay? So I'm just going to summarize. When we go into a text, what do we do? First thing, we look at the pasuk. We understand the phrasing. Right? We go to the et nachta, we see where we stop. If we have a zakef katon, right? We do that because that's also a strong separator. Then theoretically we can go to the others, but it's not really necessary at this point. Okay? If we go to the et nachta and the zakef katon, we're basically going to have somewhat correct already phrasing of the sentence of the pasuk, and then we're going to apply. First, we're going to apply and we're going to read it this way with no melody. First, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, ve'haaretz hayeta tohu vavohu, ve'choshech al penei tehom, ve'ruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim. Okay, so first I'm going to read it in the correct phrasing, make sure that I got it, and obviously the Hebrew, that goes without saying. Then I'm going to apply the 8 tropes that I know, those 8. Once I have that, then the next level is going to apply the other tropes. So for example, if I learn Rabbi, ta-ra-ra-ra, ve'haaretz, and the melody is going to be on that aleph because pa 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 pam, haaretz. It's not going to be haaretz, right? Because I see that the dot, that diamond, is on the aleph, beginning of pasuk bet, right? I see that it's there, and therefore the accent is going to be on that syllable, which means the melody is going to be on that syllable. Okay, that's basically the whole thing. So homework: listen to the files, try to take a section, read it with the correct phrasing, try to sing it, try to learn, listen to the tropes as much as you can, especially the patterns. And then next week, we're going to try and sing the tropes, and we're going to try to apply it already to the text itself. Okay. Questions, guys? If you have a question, you need to unmute yourself because no questions.
Chazan Arik.
Yeah.
On Pasuk Hey.
Pasuk Hey.
Yeah.
Yes.
After the two first word, you have a little something. How do you call
Right.
it?
That's the psik or the pasek.
Do you stop that too? Do you
It
stop?
doesn't have a melody.
No, but you mark a stop there too?
So that stop is not a stop that has to do so much with the punctuation or even the melody. Is that stop is there to make sure that I'm not going to slur, that I'm not going to connect the two words together in terms of my pronunciation.
Mhm.
So for example, Vaikra Elohim Laor, meaning they want to make sure that I'm not going to sing, that I'm not going to read Elohim La.
Oh.
So it's not going to be Elohim Laor.
If I may add,
Yes.
very often after Shem Hashem, you have a pasik if the Shem Hashem has a mechaber or a mesharet to separate the holy name from a more profane name.
Excellent.
All through Eicha Perek Bet, you see this.
Oh.
Hashem did this, Hashem did that.
Right. But it's also, right, so it's on a theological level. Jay is absolutely correct. On a theological level, there's one idea, but also on the practical level, it's many times it's going to be with a mem sofit or nun and that kind of stuff, where it's very easy to connect it, and by doing so, not giving clear pronunciation of the word.
Okay, thank you.
That's what Ronnie said earlier about the Shema. That's exact that.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, comments? Guys, feel free to contact me during the week. Yeah.
Does the trope emphasize the meaning, or is it more like the melody that's in the background to help you have a pattern?
I'm not so sure I understand the question, David.
Well, maybe I don't understand, but I'm wondering. I'm wondering if you're saying that sometimes you need to know the meaning of the word, therefore the melody will make sense for the meanings.
No, it's not that the melody has to do so much with the meaning of the words. No, it's the phrasing. Phrasing.
Okay.
Okay. Is that clear?
Okay.
I mean, I can have the same word
that
in the Torah. It's going to have different tropes because it's going to be in different sentence, and therefore the punctuation is going to be different. The functionality of the word as part of the sentence is going to be different, and therefore it's going to have different trope. And I'm going to sing it in a different way because it's a different trope.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
Mhm.
You mean the same word would sing differently with different tropes?
Correct. I can say David, I can say David,
Okay.
right? Both are correct. It really depends on the context of the sentence.
Uh-huh. So
Make sense?
context is important. Yeah, so we do have to know the context as part of it, yeah.
Well, obviously that helps, but I'm saying like you're able, it's possible to read correctly even if you don't really understand that.
I see.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'll see you,
Thank you.
next week, same time, same place. And feel free to contact me during the week if you have any questions or whatever. And we'll continue next week.
Thank
Where
you.
are we gonna see, where are you gonna see the recordings and the?
I'm gonna put it on the, it's gonna go on the shul website.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be probably under, there's like tabs. It's probably gonna be under Learn with Us, and then you'll see like, you know, Torah reading workshop or something like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay?
Excellent. Thank you, Arik.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.